determined motocross rider with big dreams but limited financial support. He competes in an amateur race, surrounded by the roar of engines and the cheers of the crowd. Blocking out the noise, he begins overtaking his opponents one by one, eventually leading the race. Yet, at the decisive moment, his bike fails him, and he falls out of the official rankings. Just as Tony considers giving up his dream, an agent named Mike Patterson approaches him, noting that with the right bike, he could have won. Patterson reveals that his agency has recently signed a new contract with Ducati, and they're seeking new racers, offering Tony a glimmer of hope. Tony returns to his daily life as a crane operator, juggling his job with caring for his son, Sofian, whom he co-parents with his ex-wife, Layla. He supports Layla as she searches for stable employment, while Sofian relishes his time with Tony, especially when he takes him to motocross events, though it's not something his mother would approve of. The next day, Tony runs into his old friend Musa, a loyal ally despite having made some questionable choices in life. When Tony drops off Sofian with Layla, he looks at her with lingering admiration, as if her love still holds a place in his heart despite their separation. Tony's big break arrives at his first tryout with Patterson's agency. He and the other racers are told that their ultimate goal is to win the Superbike World Championship, the gateway to the pinnacle of motorcycle racing, GP. With an impressive performance, Tony wows Patterson's team with his skill and determination. Later, Tony visits Layla's apartment to share his recent successes, only to encounter a group of mysterious men on the stairs. Entering the apartment, he finds it in disarray, with Layla bruised and shaken. When he tries to call the police, she stops him, admitting with a broken voice that she had been hiding drugs for the Jordan gang due to financial hardship. The gang leader had assaulted her after her former boyfriend stole the latest shipment and fled. Angry yet compassionate, Tony offers to let her stay with him and their son for safety. Seeking to resolve the issue, Tony turns to Musa, who reveals that the Jordan gang is beyond his influence, but arranges a meeting between Tony and Jordan to discuss Layla's debts, which amount to 50,000 euros. However, Jordan refuses any negotiation and dismisses him from the area. On his way back, feeling dejected, Tony is approached by a stranger who compliments his bike, but soon reveals himself as Miguel, the local mafia boss, who offers to help him with Layla's predicament. Tony knows that Jordan fears Miguel, realizing this may be his way out. Tony suggests he can pay off the debt once he becomes a professional racer, but Miguel refuses to wait, proposing instead that Tony sell his bike. Miguel menacingly hints that if Tony doesn't find a quick solution, Layla might be forced to work for them in a degrading manner. When Tony returned home, Layla noticed he seemed distracted, leading her to believe that she and Sofian might be a burden to him. Tony reassured her that this was not the case, though he couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth. Just then, he received a call from Miguel with a special offer. Under the protection of Miguel's men, Tony was forced to part with his beloved motorcycle and was transported in a truck to an unknown location, where he found himself in an abandoned parking lot with a perfect new motorcycle tailored to his new role. Tony was now a courier for illegal goods. His task was to deliver packages to another European city and return to France in less than 2 hours, under the threat that any mistake would have severe consequences for Layla. This was enough motivation for Tony to perform his job flawlessly. On his first night, he sped through border checkpoints and expertly dodged vehicles, refueling at specific stops under the watchful eyes of Miguel's men, who meticulously monitored his timing. The situation grew tense when a police patrol began to chase him, but Tony used the power of his motorcycle to escape in the opposite direction, narrowly avoiding capture. After his first successful mission, Miguel decided to employ him full-time, promising that Layla's debt would be cleared after 2 months of night work. Despite his fear, the sight of Layla and his son sleeping safely was enough for him to accept the sacrifice. Tony's nocturnal job started making him late for his day job as a loader and his training sessions with Patterson. Fatigue took its toll on him, and even Patterson warned that younger racers were eager to take the chance he'd been given. After one of his training sessions, Tony was unexpectedly visited by Jordan, who scolded him for not responding to his calls, stressing the need for his complete commitment to Miguel's interests. One night, Tony found himself chased by police at a border checkpoint. forcing him to swerve off the main road, bypass a gas station, and make a sharp detour to avoid arrest. Tony began noticing that his bike's limited speed posed a risk to his job and informed Miguel, who provided him with a faster motorcycle but imposed additional conditions, including an increase in the number of deliveries. To help him cope with exhaustion, Miguel gave him stimulant pills to resist sleep, which made Tony question the toll on his health. Nevertheless, he continued working day and night, suffering from sleep deprivation and declining performance in his tests, though he maintained astonishing speeds at night without errors. Finally, Patterson issued a final warning to Tony, urging him to either put in more effort or lose his chance to reach the top. Simultaneously, Tony received a special assignment from Farid, the leader of an Arab gang operating in the city. Although Miguel did not get along with them, Jordan convinced him that cooperation could yield greater profits. For this mission, they equipped Tony with an off-road bike to maneuver through green areas and alleys, taking advantage of a demonstration happening between civilians and the police. Everything was going smoothly until he was suddenly ambushed by members of a rival gang who knocked him off his bike without warning. Tony had no choice but to flee on foot, evading enemies in every alley he passed, using his skill in stealth and hiding with great precision. When the gang members finally spotted him again, Tony had already managed to escape by jumping into Jordan's truck. On learning of the incident, Miguel exploded with anger at Jordan for trusting Farid. However, one of Jordan's aides clarified that Farid was not behind the ambush. The betrayal had come from within their own organization. As Tony grappled with the effects of severe sleep deprivation that the pills could no longer mask, he participated in the final motorcycle test in a deteriorated state, noticing a nosebleed as he prepared. During the race, his weakened mental state betrayed him, causing him to lose control and crash painfully onto the asphalt, shattering his dreams of competing professionally. Ignoring the blow to his pride, Tony responded to Miguel's next call, where Miguel offered him a permanent position as a primary courier for contraband. Though he didn't want to remain in this line of work indefinitely, Tony felt he had no other choice if he wanted to continue supporting his family. Layla confronted him about his recent behavior after hearing from Moussa about his nightly work. Feeling guilty and seeing herself as partly responsible for his situation, she suggested reaching out to Miguel to facilitate Tony's resignation. But he stopped her, claiming he had one final delivery to complete, after which he would be free. Amid their conversation, an old spark rekindled and they reconciled. That night, Tony headed out for his final delivery to an abandoned building where Jordan was waiting for him. Despite Tony's agreement to finish his term, Jordan demanded he show up the next day as usual, stating that his work wasn't done yet. Enraged, Tony threw down his work phone, declaring his resignation, but Jordan responded in an unyielding tone. "We're done when I say we're done," leaving Tony trapped in the gang's grasp with no clear way out. It seemed that Tony had resigned himself to his situation, but a surge of anger flared up within him. In a sudden outburst, he attacked Jordan, using his helmet as a weapon until Jordan lay lifeless. Realizing the gravity of his actions, he sought help from Moussa to dispose of the body. Knowing it was only a matter of time before Miguel would find out and seek revenge, Tony proposed a daring plan to Moussa to seize Miguel's empire for themselves. The next day, Miguel approached Tony, inquiring about Jordan's whereabouts. Tony casually lied, claiming that Jordan had joined Farid's gang. Miguel then invited Tony to join him for a drug shipment transfer, unknowingly walking into Tony's trap. Moussa and his men followed discreetly from a distance, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. At a key intersection, they prepared to ambush, but Miguel's driver skillfully navigated through the traffic, taking a shortcut and evading the attack. With the initial plan foiled, Tony maintained his composure, assisting Miguel with loading the drugs into a truck